Okay, now, Dean Jesse had originally assigned W.W. Phelps to that, but we've figured out in recent, actually months, that it's in the handwriting of Frederick G. Williams. There's just pretty much no question about it. And that covers Abraham 1, starting at verse 4, and then goes to Abraham 2, verse 6. Okay, so that's manuscript number 2. Manuscript number 3 is sometime after October 29th, and that has 3 leaves. Again, 3 pages, or 3 sheets on each side, handwriting in the handwriting of Warren Parrish, and that goes up to Abraham 2:2. And then I had to kind of split up manuscript 4, okay, because it's all in the same folder, but they're 3 different things, okay? So the first one here is 13 leaves, okay? So it's written only on one side on this one, in the handwriting of Willard Richards, probably in 1841, and that's Abraham 1, 2 through 18. And then 4A are 2 separate sheets, pages 7 and 8. Okay, in the handwriting of Willard Richards, and that has in it Abraham 3:18 through 26. Okay, and finally, whoops, I'm sorry, let's go back here. And finally, 4B here is after 1841 again. It's only 1 page, Willard Richards, and it's the facsimile 1 explanation, but that's on the reverse of page 2 of this one. Is it getting complicated yet? These are not, these actually are quite complicated. Then manuscript number 5 is 3 leaves, okay, and that's facsimile 2 explanation, okay. So it's all very, there's a man named Steve Emmel, a papyrologist, a Coptic papyrologist who looked at this stuff. He's, I think, from Harvard, and he looked at all this material and said, the Mormons don't realize how complex these documents are, okay, with their relationship to each other and all this, okay. So these are all, very complicated things, but I'm a simple guy, so I try to simplify it as best as I can for myself anyway, okay? Now, 2 of the manuscripts, manuscript 2 and manuscript 3, so this would be the earliest, and this would be the next one, have this strange phrase at the very top of the manuscript. Sign of the 5th degree of the, and then first is crossed out, second is put up there, and it says part. Okay, and then the next one says the same thing, and it's crossed out the same way, and they're identical that way, okay? Now that has caused no small stir among both apologists and critics, okay? Trying to figure out what in the world is that about, okay? And so, of course, I'll tell you exactly what it's about in just a few minutes, right? Not. Okay. So, now, just going back here for just a second, let me see, I don't want to do that, I guess. Okay, now here's the Egyptian ones, okay? Talk about getting more complicated here, okay? I mean, this stuff is not easy to figure out. First of all, you have 9 folders or manuscripts here, and we've got some dates that we have tentatively figured out, okay? And the size of these, and the handwriting, okay, and these are kind of the names over here: Grammar and Alphabet, Egyptian Counting, 3 Egyptian alphabet manuscripts, 1 in the handwriting of Joseph Smith, okay, 1 notebook that says valuable discovery on it, and with Joseph Smith's signature, okay, and a couple columns of the book of Chemin, okay, that Michael Rhodes identified. Okay, now that's a lot of stuff, okay. This is a lot of material here, and it's not going to be easy to figure out what all this is about, okay? But I'm going to give you some things to think about here as we go along here. Let me give you what I call the Book of Abraham stemma. Okay, now what this means is that the kind of the genealogical relationship between these manuscripts. So manuscript 2 would be the earliest. Okay, then manuscript 3 could have been copied from manuscript 2, but it's later. Okay, manuscript 1 is definitely copied from manuscript 3, and manuscript 4 is probably copied from manuscript 1. Okay, that's what that means. It's just kind of a stemma here to help us understand what the relationship is between these particular manuscripts here. Now, interestingly, manuscripts 1 through 3, I don't think I have, we'll stop there for a minute on that one. Manuscripts 1, 2, and 3 have hieratic characters lined up on the left-hand margin with English text on the right, okay? And these characters are taken from the Joseph Smith Papyri number 11. Okay, now if you don't know what that is, that's the papyri that supposedly comes right after facsimile number 1 in the papyri collection there. So, manuscripts 2 and 3 obviously connect to some of this Egyptian material, okay, but manuscript 1 doesn't have the sign of the 5th degree and all that on there, but it still has those characters on there. And so the critics have concluded, with the sound of a slamming iron door, by the way, that these characters represent the translation process of the Book of Abraham, okay? That's kind of the long and the short of it. Of course, the characters themselves come from the Hoare Book of Breathings, like I said, and they immediately follow facsimile number 1. And so the way they think about it is they look at Abraham 1:12 and it reads, I will refer you to the representation, meaning facsimile number 1, at the commencement of this record. And they say, well, that means that the Book of Abraham ought to come right after facsimile number 1. Okay, I'm just kind of giving you the critic's point here. And we know that facsimile, or that the Book of Abraham does not come from the Book of Breathings, the Hoare Book of Breathings. In fact, it's not even close. How do we know that? Because it's been translated a number of times. The most recent is Mike Rhodes, okay, where he translated all of that material. And you cannot find any Book of Abraham material in there. Now, here's just a thought, and I appreciate Kevin Barney on this one, on his adaptation thesis that J. Redd, if you remember J. Redd, Jewish redactor, okay, may have put that particular statement in to help the reader refer back to a picture, okay? Or it could have been Joseph Smith himself putting in that particular explanation. We don't know for sure, okay? It almost doesn't sound like Abraham, though. But you know, these are called glosses, explanations, okay? And I've found those in the Book of Moses even. There's glosses in there, okay, where things are being explained, okay? It's still part of the scriptures, but it's just an explanation to kind of help us move through the text, okay? And so, you know, the critics really do have, you know, some good questions about this, if they would be a little bit more open. But what I think really it's going to take to answer, or at least start to answer these questions, is to really carefully analyze these manuscripts, manuscript by manuscript, page by page, line by line, and even word by word in some instances. And when you investigate these manuscripts that closely, we may come to some conclusions that the critics come to. And we and likely will come to other conclusions that they do not, okay? And the only one I know so far that has studied the manuscripts, as probably maybe more than me, is Mr. Brent Metcalf, okay? He's the only one that I know of. And why is that? Because nobody else has the pictures, okay? And so the critics, some of the critics do, of course, but they don't know how to interpret them. And I have talked to Brent, and he has actually, we have come to the same conclusions on some things. We've already determined that, okay? But yet we depart radically on some other things, okay? So just understand that when I say that you know, he is one that I know has studied the manuscripts quite carefully. All right, so now on FairWiki, which I was very impressed to learn about, there's the critic's approach to the Book of Abraham and Egyptian manuscripts. Okay, and so let's just review that really quickly here, because this is going to help to kind of know figure out where we're going. The Book of Abraham manuscripts represent the translation working papers for the Book of Abraham. So those characters over on the left side are being translated on the right side with the text. Okay, that's what the critics say is going on. Okay.